Please sit down. Dear respected Thai, dear beloved Sangha, can you hear me well? Today is September 4th, 2021, and we are with Deer Park's Road Retreat in Boise, Idaho. When I see this painting here, I am reminded of our trip yesterday when we came up here. We drove up from Jackson westwards on the 84 and the 86, and we saw these abundant fields of corn, of potatoes, of wheat. And it was time for the farmers to harvest the fruit of their hard and loving work. So they were out on the fields with these big harvesters, and it was a collective effort. It was not a single farmer or his family as in former times, but there are these huge machines, but still it needs many hands to get the work done and to bring the harvest home. So there was this huge harvester with a man in, and then there were two huge trucks which the harvester loaded the potatoes into. And then there were a few people around the truck just standing around. I guess this was the actual farmer overviewing all the work, and maybe he hired these drivers and truck drivers and harvester drivers. And you know, there are always people who just like to hang out and look and watch other people work. And that reminded me of our Sangha, because there was a Sangha at work, basically. And if you have been to a big retreat in one of our monasteries with 200, 300, 400 people, you know that we split up in families too, in little groups during the retreat, which becomes your family, and this family has a name, and you meet that people of that family. It's between 10 and 20 people, and we will also have Dharma sharing families here in this retreat. So in big retreats there's a lot of work too, and in the Plum Village tradition we, as you know, the monastics, we cook and we do all the work, so we don't have a catering or we don't have people doing the work, and it's part of our practice, of our mindfulness practice, to integrate our meditation, our mindfulness into our daily lives. That's what we teach. And that's what I guess struck so many of us to this particular tradition, because we learn how to be mindful in our day-to-day lives. So these families, they come together in sharing families, and they share their experience of their mindfulness practice, their challenges and their happiness. They come together and have lunch or dinners in that family where they again connect and get to know each other, their families, their kids, who are usually in the children's program or in the teens program, but for the dinner time we would all come together and we work together. So every family to run that retreat has a responsibility, just as the monastics usually have throughout the year, a responsibility to keep that monastery going, to keep that retreat going, especially with 400 or 500 people. So there are families who are taking care of the washing up after the meals. Actually, there are 3 families always, and they're alternating. There are families who are taking care of sweeping and mopping the dining hall once a day at least, sanitizing. There are those who are cleaning the restrooms. There are those families who are taking care of compost, recycling, the trash. There's always 1 or 2 families who are that is preparing the meditation hall for the next activity, sweeping it out, laying out the mats and cushions. And when I look at this, when I stop during the retreat and I see everybody doing working meditation, doing something, I'm really touched. And I share about it in my Dharma sharing families often, and saying, it is so nourishing to see that this retreat is like a little society. Everybody is doing something to keep that retreat going, to keep that life energy going, so we can be here and live here and practice here, even if it's only for a few days or a weekend. But we contribute to it. And it reminds me of our society outside the monastery, in the real world, if you wish so, where everybody has something. They are trash men, they are doctors, they are police officers, they are gardeners, they are park rangers, they are shop assistants, there are supermarkets. All these people contribute in their way to do something, but we never acknowledge or appreciate that, really. But in the retreat, when we see each other, we would greet each other with a lotus and offer the other person our presence. And even we don't know that person because they are part of another Dharma sharing family, with another name, with another lunch partners and a responsibility, but we know that this person contributes in one way or another to this retreat. And I can say thank you. I can say, hey, what are you doing? And they said, I'm doing the bathrooms. And I say, lucky you can be indoors because it's so hot maybe outside, right? Or it's raining and then you can be indoors. What are you doing? I'm doing trash and recycling. Oh, lovely. You come in touch with mud and the lotus. So, and you learn after more retreats that there is no good or bad responsibility, but every responsibility is a beautiful responsibility if you do it with mindfulness and with that knowledge that you are contributing to make that retreat beautiful and peaceful, and that you will contribute to the well-being of others. And Thai says, the Plum Village Sangha is not an organization. You can easily drift up there and say everything has to be structured and regimented and governed, but we are not an organization. He's very clear, we are an organism. And this is how it looks like to me. We are there for one another, like an organism. The liver works for the heart works for the liver, for the stomach, for the muscles, for the lungs, for the brain. Everybody works hand in hand together without discriminating, but harvesting the fruits of our practice, which are compassion, love, peace, understanding, harvesting these hand in hand, just as the farmers did on the freeway when we saw them. It was funny, there were big trucks passing us with huge potatoes. I never saw huge potatoes like that, like they were piled up on that truck. And I even saw a license plate saying world's best potatoes. And we got to try these. I don't know where we get them, if you actually export them all, or if you can actually get some in Idaho, world's best potatoes. Now we're curious. So what is a Sangha? You know, I'm raving about these things, like a Sangha is like a little society, and then I hear people saying, even in the Dharma sharing family, trying to ground me again, telling me like, you know, not everybody can be a monastic or on a retreat for their lifetime, for the rest of their life. It's like nice for a weekend or a couple of days, but it's just not real. And I said, of course, we cannot all be monastics or on retreats. I understand that, but we can actually live as a Sangha outside. You know, just with this, because it doesn't take much, it just takes that recognition, that acknowledgement, and that appreciation for one another. That awareness that this person that I don't know her name or her contribution to this world, but I know she's doing something. And even if she's doing just nothing, you know, if she doesn't have a job, so she's a real human being, because Thai often says we think we are human doings, but actually we are human beings. And we forget to be because we always do so much. So even those who are not working, they contribute in one way or another. And the way we contribute, we form our society and we form the spirit of our society. And it's up to us how we govern ourselves. We don't need a government. A government is good to give us a structure, but we actually govern how we want to relate to one another. In our chants, in the chanting book, it says, the Sangha is a community that lives in harmony and awareness. So awareness is clear. We're living with mindfulness, offering presence to ourselves, to one another, and we're living in harmony. And Thai often emphasize that harmony is the most important thing in a Sangha. Everything should be focused on living in harmony. Thai often walked in Plum Village in France on lazy Mondays. He would walk past the brother's residence down to his little hermitage in Sangha. And you can imagine, like, everybody is lazy at lazy Monday, and then somebody sees Thai walking by the window, says, Thai's walking by the window, and everybody tries to sit straight and be his best, you know. And sometimes Thai would come in and have a cup of tea with us, and we would sit around Thai and listen, like, to your grandfather, teacher, and have tea with him and listen or just enjoy his presence. And he would say, dear brothers, don't strive for enlightenment. That's not why we're here. Brotherhood is the best. And he said brotherhood because we were in the brothers' residence. We have a brotherhood and sisterhood, and we have a new word that is siblinghood, because we are a fourfold Sangha. We contain sisters and brothers, so siblinghood is the best. If you're enlightened, he said, you're very lonely. But if you have siblinghood, you are a family, you are a Sangha. And we can harvest together the fruits of our practice, and we can enjoy them together. And only that energy that resonates and stays after saying this, or after hearing Tay saying this, makes complete sense to me, saying, yes, this is why I'm here, to bask in that spirit of Sangha, of love, of understanding, of supporting and building each other, of becoming loving human beings. Another chant says, a Sangha is a field of merits and good seeds. And as we yesterday shared the merits of our practice with all beings, the love and the mindfulness, the understanding that we have generated here, we water these wholesome seeds inside of our own consciousness and in the collective consciousness by practicing mindfully, breathing, walking, and being together as a Sangha, taking care of one another, offering our presence in good times and in bad times. We are there when our siblings are suffering, and we are there to share their happiness with them. And that makes us so different from, let's say, the worldly societies or the worldly governments or even religious institutions. A Sangha is not an organization. It is much warmer because it is really one-to-one. There is this relationship which gets lost. And I wish and I believe still that this is possible only by empowering ourselves, by practicing for ourselves how we relate to others, to our siblings, that we can build that society that we wish for. And how do we maintain that as a Sangha? And what do we do as a monastic Sangha to keep these values, these seeds, these wholesome seeds watered by living together, by coming together? I want to tell you, maybe after listening to one sound of the bell and coming back to ourselves, bringing our mind and body together, coming into the present moment. You see, Thai gave us many practices. Thai gave us all the practices a Sangha needs to live harmoniously in good times and in bad times. And we, as a Sangha, got to get together for different occasions to be there for one another, just like now. To come together in a circle, in a room, outside for walking meditation, to walk as a river, and to generate that collective energy of Sangha, of harmony, of awareness, of merits and good seeds. So I want to lay out 4 important practices we practice regularly in our monastic schedule. And I hope and guess and wish also for all the lay sanghas, and if not, well, get inspired to do so in the future. One is the happiness meeting. The happiness meeting happens every 2 weeks. Every end of lazy Monday, when we start our schedule again, going into the week. You know that we have a lazy day, right, everyone? Thai found it very important to have a schedule-free day, which doesn't mean that it is a practice-free day. Thai is really clear about that. He wants us to practice mindfulness 24/7 as his monastic disciples. And as lay disciples, maybe 24/7. Not less, as much as we can. So we have that lazy day where we basically only have the meals. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, and there is no sitting, no walking, no working, no meeting. And we can plan our own day. We can just be lazy, we can go on a hike, we can drink tea with our siblings, we play guitar. We do hammock meditation a lot. And at the end of the day, we have a happiness meeting every other Monday night to share what we have experienced, what made us happy in that day or the last week or since the last happiness meeting, what we have seen in others that have watered the seeds of happiness and joy inside of us. Maybe we saw a squirrel or a deer or a coyote at Deer Park, a rattlesnake, that touched some happiness in us because we were able to observe it, and it touched some seeds in us that made us smile. And we deem it worthy to share it, to share the merits of our happiness with others so they can get in touch with my happiness and water their seeds of happiness too. And I can listen to what my brothers and sisters have experienced that day, the last week, what they're with and were in touch with, what made them happy. And not only by listening to them, seeds of happiness are watered in myself, but I also have a chance to get to know my sister and my brother better, and to know what makes her or him happy. And maybe I will have a chance in the future to contribute, because I know what makes them happy. I can do them a little favor, or offer them a little gift or a smile when I see they're not at their best. So I offer them a smile or a hug, and I can contribute to their well-being. Often we only sing at the happiness meeting. We just sing our practice songs and water seeds of joy and happiness inside of us. And sometimes, sometimes there's more to share, sometimes less, and sometimes there are little pauses where nobody is sharing. And we see that also as a great happiness, that we are together, sitting together in a circle, having each other as a practice in community, knowing that we are farming those fruits of compassion, of understanding, of love, of peace, and that we are generating them in this very moment, not even speaking. So that's a very beautiful and nourishing practice which Thai planted into our schedule. And I know that Sanghas come together weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and we can dedicate one of these Sangha meetings to a happiness meeting. Right? We have meetings where we can recite sutras, which is very important, where we can share what has happened for us, very important, and we can also share what made us happy and water these seeds in us and others and get to know each other. That's the happiness meeting. Then we have more serious meetings, bhikshu, bhikshuni meetings. These are the fully ordained nuns and monks, and they have to talk about organizational things, logistical things, build a new building, tear down a building, when to open, what's the schedule for the next season. Many things, that we are changing rooms every year and roommates to stay impermanent, and practicing letting go, who's moving in with who in what room. And we have Dharma teacher meetings. The Dharma teacher council is the teaching body of the Sangha, and they meet about requests for retreats. I had to present my idea of the road retreat to the Dharma teacher council and advertise it so they would approve, and saying that's a good idea to bring the teaching out. Then the retreat schedule for inside the monastery, our spring, summer and fall retreats, our themed retreats are discussed there. When do we start the winter retreat? Which day we were gonna celebrate Vesak, Buddha's birthday. So the teaching body makes decision on that level. Interestingly to me is, yesterday I said we're doing in the monastery everything what society is doing outside, but we do it with mindfulness. So again, we sit in a circle, and not like a parliament with one speaker here and the rest is like listening, similar to us now, right? But we are sitting in a circle, and there is one bell master, but who is not the master of voice or the MC. He's just there, beginning, ending the session, and maybe indicating sometimes a little break for 3 breaths, so that when the discussion becomes heated, or whenever he senses it is good for us to come back to our bodies, he can do so, or she can do so. What I like most about our meetings And Tai also emphasized that meetings are a practice, are a meditation. Nothing is really outside of mindfulness meditation. It's not a sheer working meeting. If we don't practice, and if we don't observe and study, and if we don't bring the element of play and siblinghood, and of course work into that meeting, then we fail in our practice. So we have to have that in mind when we listen to others, when we have judgments coming up, when we bring up ideas which we believe are the right ones, and everyone else thinks differently, and we think they all don't know, you know? And we have to do it this way because it wouldn't work, and I know it because I have the experience. And 100 people, 100 different opinions and perspectives. But what we never do is what governments, parliaments, houses do, is that we raise our hands and we count arms. Like, okay, who's pro, who's con, who is voting for and who is voting against it. And then we have 50-50, and we don't have a Kamala Harris who gives us the last hand. But this is not how we want to work, because if we have a majority of 51 to 49, we know that there is no harmony in the community. And we need the harmony to live together, and we need the harmony to generate these fruits of compassion, of understanding, right? If we're not in harmony, how can we generate this energy of love and of inclusiveness, non-discrimination? So we will have to come to a consensus. And as you can imagine, it is not easy. The bigger the group, the more opinions, the more difficult it is to find a consensus. But as a Sangha, we have a practice. And one of our, I want to say, most important practices is to let go of our own ideas, to let go of what I believe is right, me personally, to let go of my separate self, and to become a river, not a drop in the water in the Sangha, but to become the river, the Sangha, and to look with the eyes of a Sangha, and to think with the mind of a Sangha. And that helps to make decisions with such a big body, teaching body, organizational body. Tai says, letting go is giving us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness, for true happiness. If we, in our hearts or minds, still cling to anything, be it thoughts, ideas, sorrows, fear, we cannot be free, and we cannot be happy. And we cannot contribute to a Sangha decision because we claim that it has to be that way. And to have that practice in each one of us helps a lot to make harmonious decisions. And we don't have these fights you see on TV or election TV duels. You know, we don't need that. And if you ask me personally, I find that many times like very kindergarten-like. I see like adult politicians, like leaders, maybe even presidents, who are talking like hurt kindergarten children who took their toy away. So a Sangha is a very mature and insightful and full of wisdom body that makes decision based on everybody's happiness, more or less. Because still, there are different opinions. Let's say the Sangha decides to open or close Deer Park because of COVID, and we had that discussion. And we are different people and we have different opinions towards that. But going around and hearing everyone, we see also what is the Sangha thinking, and what are the Sangha's needs, and what are their concerns, and what are our intentions. And we had to weigh, like, of course, health, safety, and service. We make a vow of service. On the other side, we have vulnerable members, so we need to find a balance there. And there were times at the beginning where we were not ready to open Deer Park. And many of us wanted to open Deer Park, but we also saw the fear and the concern is more important right now. And even I believe we should open, I'm letting go of my idea because I see that brings harmony to the community. So I'm letting go of my own idea. And later, those who expressed their concerns after a year and we got vaccinated, they felt more safe and they said, okay, we are ready to let go of our concerns and our fears. And that's something very beautiful because usually we hold on to our fears and it becomes a habit. We said, no, no, no. The danger is still there, it's still out there, we can still be infected. We have to stay closed. But no, you see that awareness and that also sense of harmony and flowing as a river allowed us, or these members, to let go of their idea, of their fear, of their concerns, and say, okay, I hear we want to service and we need to serve all beings, and we can do that best if we are open. And of course, for the moment, we only allow vaccinated people in, which is also controversial. Many people don't understand, but we have vulnerable members. And it was that compromise that helped finding a solution with consensus, with full consensus. Vaccinated people can come to Deer Park, and we wear masks indoors. So I believe if we could in society establish such councils, and I know they exist in other spiritual traditions. The Quakers have that, many other actually traditions, and native indigenous tribes, peoples, they had that intuitively. And I think this is how it passed on to us, but we still value and treasure and live it, while the governing system became more an organization, more than an organism. Another meeting or coming together is the beginning anew. And the beginning anew is a beautiful opportunity for the community to create harmony. You know, we are also aware that we are not always in harmony, and because of these different opinions, and maybe a decision has been made that was not in my favor, or let's say this retreat wouldn't have been approved, and I would have been just sad that this great vision and idea I had for the road retreat is not coming true, and I would suffer for a couple of days or weeks. And beginning anew gives me a chance to express that too. So we have the happiness meeting, and we have the beginning anew, which I can begin anew with myself, with a Sangha. So whenever there is something between me and myself, me and my practice, me and another member of the community, me and the community in total, these meetings, these beginning anew sessions are happening every other week. So every Monday evening, every other Monday evening, we have a beginning anew, every other a happiness meeting. And interestingly enough, these beginning anews always happen the day before we recite our precepts. And maybe this is also a good idea for our lay sanghas, our Y members, because you know, when we recite our precepts, we have a Sangha Karman. And in the Sangha Karman it says, is the community in harmony? And I never heard them saying, no, the community is not in harmony. It was always, yes, the community is in harmony. Thus, we can proceed with a precept recitation, because the community, the Sangha body, has to be in harmony. And how do we establish that harmony? We establish it with a beginning anew the evening before. That's a very beautiful idea. So if there's anything on my heart concerning myself, concerning another member or the community, my practice, I have an opportunity to speak, to share, and to let go of that. And Thai also planted that into our schedule. It's never that we miss one beginning anew, it's just not happening, because we have to create harmony before the precept recitation. And sometimes nothing happens. We were just in harmony, and that's the perfect case. And what do? We sit, we breathe together, we enjoy our presence, and we water seeds of gratitude. I said, I saw this brother this week doing that, and he was watering the garden, and I'm so touched, and I felt so much gratitude and happiness. So we watering our seeds if there's nothing to share differently. But we can share pain and we can share regret. And I guess you all know the 4 steps. I just want to mention them shortly, so I have said them talking about beginning anew. It contains 4 steps. And also to begin a process which can also be a reconciliation or a conflict solution process. It begins with watering the other's flower, or my own flower, with appreciation. Letting the other, let's talk about another person, letting the other person know that I know that I value you. I want you to know that I value you, that I see you, and that I appreciate you. That I see your contribution in this world. I know that you are on the recycling team, on the meditation hall team. I know your part. I'm aware of that, and I'm very happy that you're here. I know about your presence, and it makes me very happy. And we can do and find 2, 3, 4 little things that we appreciate about that person. So this person knows it is seen and it is heard. The second step is to express regrets, and that's showing our vulnerability. Looking maybe into that conflict or that thing that is between us. I can see how did I contribute to it, to have a whole picture, not only my own perspective. How did I actually fire it up or rekindle it or added oil to the fire that was not necessary, and I actually regret it now. To let that person also know I'm aware of my weaknesses. And I want to be honest with you and with myself. And this is what I regret. And it also shows that there is love for the other person, because I don't want you to suffer, and I know that I contributed to your suffering with my behavior, with my words. So, to express that. And the third step is also to express your pain and the difficulties you have experienced during that conflict, without blaming the other person. But just sharing, I found it very challenging for me to remember that I love you, or to remember and to stay mindful and compassionate when you said this and that to me. And this is very objective. When you said, like, you never clean up our room, or you leave it always to me to wash our cups from our common room, I really get angry. But knowing that it was the first time I didn't wash the cups, for example, I don't feel seen. So I have a chance objectively to say, when you did or said this and that, I felt hurt. And I found it difficult to be in touch with you and to feel connected with you and to feel as a river or to be in harmony with you. And I want you to know that. I found it is important for you to know that, because I know you care for me and you care for the Sangha's harmony. And you can help me. And this help is the 4th step. In the 4th step, we can ask for support for the future. How can we actually, I wouldn't say prevent, but let me say prevent situations like that. Because why should we prevent? We grow with painful situations and we grow with suffering. So we don't want to prevent it, but how can we handle it better? How can I let you know when I hear you're going to say something that will hurt me? How can I let you know, please maybe breathe? Or how can I remind myself when I know I'm going to do or say something that will hurt you because I react? How can I withdraw and be silent maybe? Can we just smile at each other, or have a time out sign, or invite a sound of the bell if there's one around? So that is the 4th step. And I found the 4th step is also very beautiful, to look deeply inside of myself. Having gone through the first 3 steps, the appreciation of the other person, the regrets I have, the challenges I have experienced, something is happening, something is coming up. And when I become still for a moment, I can feel and get in touch with maybe habit energies I have developed in my life, and certain behavior patterns I have in pedo for certain situations, and they just automatically come up. And I see, oh, okay, like every time somebody criticizes me, I'm having my shields up and I'm starting to attack back in order to protect me. And is that really necessary? And where does it come from? This comes from, actually I have inherited this from my parents. I have seen that from my parents, and maybe they have seen that from their grandparents. And it's a family habitual thing. And am I able to filter that out and to maybe transform that into understanding and love for myself, for my family, to forgive and heal an unwholesome habitual stream flowing through me? And that's a beautiful opportunity, this fourth step, to look deeply and to ask and to offer support and help. That's the beginning anew. And I know in lay sanghas and as well in monastic sanghas that it is often like, yeah, let's have a beginning anew. Because we know pain is involved and suffering will come up, and maybe we don't feel always we have the capacity to listen to it or to be with that, or maybe we are overloaded with suffering already and we don't want to and can't hear our brothers or sisters suffering. But all of us who went through anyway will know that it is very rewarding and you feel more connected. You feel deeply connected with yourself, with that person, with your practice, with the community afterwards. And you didn't give away anything. Maybe it's our separate self, our little pride and ego, which at the beginning says, I know if I start I can easily find some good seeds to water, some flowers in you, but then I need to regret, and he can turn that against me later and saying, you said it yourself. Like you always doing things like that, and it's a catch-22. Maybe we are afraid of that. Our ego is afraid and wants to protect us, and also to express our own pain. Often we're not very good at expressing our weakness and that we suffer to another person, and it takes some courage. And Brené Brown speaks of getting yourself out into the arena and showing yourself vulnerable. But isn't that also the spirit of a Sangha, to be there for each other and to plant seeds of love and compassion and of growth and to build each other and to go through good and through bad times together? And often when somebody says, oh, dear brother Freedom, I want to water your flowers. And I think, there, and the next step is the regret, and then they will come, what did I do wrong? So when you hear somebody wanting to watering your flowers, you think, oops, now this is going to be a beginning anew. But why is that we feel afraid, And I get it, because I feel it too. I just want to encourage us that beginning anew doesn't consist of only these 4 individual steps, but is a beautiful process in total. Actually, you can experience, while doing beginning anew, mud turning into a lotus, Mud and suffering turning into happiness, into deep, true happiness, into accepting and embracing the suffering, and to offering the love, the reward, what came out, what resonates out of the beginning anew for the other person, for yourself. You can begin anew with people that have passed away already. When I came to the monastery and learned about this practice, and I knew how many people I have hurt with my words, with my actions, I started writing letters to my grandparents, which were dead already. But I needed to say it to myself, what I appreciated about them. I wrote poems about their qualities. I filled pages soaked with tears about my regrets when I said things that hurt them. And I also was able to express what always annoyed me. When my grandmother wanted to bless me and she licked her fingers and went over my eyebrows, or had this big wet kisses, as a kid, you just hate it. And you're afraid to go to your grandma because she will wetten you. I was able to release that. It was kind of a little, if you want to call it trauma. But it was really fearful at times. And my sister said the same, so there is some truth about it. Loving grandmas and their kisses. So it's a beautiful practice, be it written or done in person. And if you need a little bit practice, start with yourself. Start with yourself. Take some time. There are books from Sister Chankom about beginning anew, very beautifully explained how to do it and what are the fruits. We can harvest the fruits of our practice, transforming mud into flowers. And similarly to this, another practice which is not happening every week but every year is the shining light practice. In the shining light practice, we take our time to reflect on our last year in the Sangha. And it consists of 3 steps, which is also watering flowers, appreciation, the mud, as I call it, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, and suggestions. And it's like a team building thing. Sometimes I see even companies have that. Once a year, a feedback session where you go through the things that went well, that didn't go so well, and ways to make them well. And we like to call them flowers as the first step, and flowers to be, that's the mud, and fertilizer. That's the suggestions that can help us to grow these flowers, right, from the mud. And in these sessions, every member of the community is shining light on themselves first. So you get a date, we meet. Usually we do half an hour for each person, have a session of two brothers or 2 sisters. And then everybody is allowed to share. First you share about yourself. I have seen myself growing in the last year, more capacity to be with my brothers. I'm an introvert, but I learned to get more out and get into the rooms of my brothers and just drink tea and have some conversations, which is not easy, but I saw I did an effort. And again, we learn a lot about our siblings. And the second is where I still see that I have difficulties. Of course, a spiritual growth takes time, and we practice some things easier and some things take longer. And we share about these. So the Sangha knows we are aware about it. We are aware of it. Because many things we believe, probably nobody knows that this is my weakness, but everybody knows it better than you. They say every cat on the street knows you better than you know yourself. So if you come out, so to speak, you acknowledge to yourself your weaknesses, which is a very honest and good way to begin transformation. Like the first noble truth, there is suffering, and there is a cause for this suffering. And then also stopping for a moment and looking deeply into these first steps, I can see solutions. I can make a fertilizer and seeing what can I do, what can I see and I do from my perspective that will help me to grow. And then everybody else of the Sangha is allowed to share also these 3 steps. And we asked the roommates, and you know that we live together in rooms. The roommates, please water the flowers, please find the compost, the flowers to be, and some fertilizers. We asked the cooking teams that we work together, the brothers, sisters who are in our responsibility team to do so. And it's a very also rewarding, transforming, and liberating practice, which Thai has planted into community life, into Sangha life, to make us ready for every situation. You know, we cannot say, okay, I really wish to be in harmony with that brother, but you know, it's just not possible. It's not true, because Thai gave us all tools, all means, all practices, planted them into our daily schedule as a monastic Sangha, but also as a Fourfold Sangha, as we are, which empowers us as a Fourfold Sangha, which makes events like this happen. And coming together, I believe and I hope that the lay Sanghas can benefit from our daily practice, from the monastics, coming from the very center, like the middle of the fire, the middle of the campfire, stepping out into the ring of fire and sharing how we deal with difficult moments and what do we do as a Sangha to stay in harmony, which Thai emphasized is the most important thing, even more important than enlightenment, because we don't want to be lonely. We are not sheep, we are not a flock of sheep that get all the same food and we grow all together the same way. We need different food at different times, our personalities, our cultural background, our age. But we learn with mindfulness what the other brother, what the other sister needs right now. We get to know each other and we are aware that everybody's vulnerable and we are honest to ourselves first. We let go of our pride, we let go of our separate self because we know we'll just dry out, and everybody tried it. All of us, we tried it, and we know it is not helping. And harmony in the Sangha is a good measurement for practice level, because harmony reflects freedom and happiness, as we mentioned before, letting go. And if we see that there is harmony in the community, not only we can recite the precepts with a pure conscience, or the 14 mindfulness trainings, but we can also see our brothers and see our sisters and see ourselves in our brother and sister. So these are 4 very essential practices, which I wish we could make space for also in lay sanghas. And I know I'm asking a lot now. You have only Sangha meetings once a week for a month. Now I ask you to have a happiness meeting. And I ask you to have a beginning anew. And I know you have also organizational meetings when you organize this retreat, for example. You have to sit together before. But I wanted to at least share it and plant that seed that Thai planted in the monastic community. And I think Bill yesterday shared that we carve out time in our lay lives. Sorry, in your lay lives, you carve out time because you have to. And that means you are setting priorities. You know exactly, I need to carve out time here because this is more important right now for me to sit or to walk or to eat mindfully than to do that, respond to that email or make that phone call. So stop and look deeply and see how your Sangha, how yourself, how your practice would benefit from integrating these meetings, these coming joyfully together as a Sangha would contribute to the harmony of your Sangha. Let us stop and look deeply for a moment while we listen to a wonderful sound of the bell. Did you feel some harmony now, breathing in and out? I was in touch with the harmony flowing through our hearts here. And in a community, just as in a family or in society, you have elders and you have youngers. The Sangha is called the Beginner's Mind Sangha, and I love that a lot because we have very old members here. And there is enough humility to call yourself Beginner's Mind Sangha. But we also know Beginner's Mind Sangha has nothing to do with not being experienced or being a beginner, but to keep that freshness alive and to keep in touch with the present moment and not to lose yourself in concepts or ideas that I'm an elder or I'm a younger. And we know there is no master without a student. And there is a saying, a definition of master. I said a master, the difference between a student and a master is that the master has failed more times than the student has ever tried, right? So there's a lot of suffering, and this suffering makes you an elder, a master. And Confucius, can you help me with that? Confucius said there are three means to become a wise person. One is through imitation. And in Zen Buddhism, we know, like, we observe a lot. We observe others, we observe, and that's how we benefit. Observing the Sangha, walking, helps me to stay calm and walk mindfully. Observing the Sangha, doing things, helps my own practice. And that's the easiest, he says. You gain wisdom by imitation, by copying the wise ones, the elders, those with more experience. Then there is gaining wisdom by reflection, by sheer introspection, observing our mind, which is the noblest, he said, which is what the Buddha actually did, sitting under the Bodhi tree and said, I'm not leaving this spot until I understand my mind. Looking finally through this Bodhi leaf and getting it, getting inner being and have this breakthrough. This is the noblest. And then the third, which most of us probably know very well, is, he said, is by experience. And that is the most painful. And that is what we all know and what we all need. So, but it's these three means that make us a wise person, and that make us elders, and that make us masters, if you wish so. But elders are not leaders, because we are not sheep, right? We don't need a shepherd. We don't need dogs to keep us together as a flock. They are guides. And even Thai, although we say Thai, which means teacher, is a guide and not a leader. He's leading the way, but we say actually he's guiding us, because where is Thai guiding us? Where is the teaching guiding us? Where is the Buddha guiding? Where are the elders guiding the youngers? They're guiding them towards themselves. I'm not guiding you outside of yourself to a place, the Pure Land, or the Kingdom of God, or Nirvana. I only can guide you to understand yourself, and you can benefit from my experience, from my suffering, from my introspection, from my noble, simple, and painful ways of wisdom, and from my failures, from my many, many failures. And it's not easy for the youngers and for the elders, I believe, because the youngers are full of energy, are fresh, and seeing things purely, often sharply. And when you have to mentor or offer classes to young novices, you have to give up. You know, they're so revolutionary and wanting to tear down the monastic system, and they're so right. And you see that there is such a clarity and crispness into their thinking, and it's true. But I cannot allow this. You know, it wouldn't help them at that stage to have this breakthrough already. So you need to really have more suffering and more introspection and more imitation of life. But that's very important, that we as elders and youngers, that we treat each other as siblings. And again, that we generate harmony in the way we walk, in the way we talk, in the way we act with each other. How we live together, what our intention is. Even if you bore me or you annoy me, I just have in mind, what's wrong with you? What do you need right now? I'm your brother. I want to look behind that words. And I'm checking in with you, saying, what is it? Like, do you want me to leave for a moment? Or you need a shoulder? And I will hear them. I want to help you, tell me how. I don't want to impose my help on you, what I think is right for you, but I want to hear from you what you need and then give it to you. Or not if I cannot. And then find another one. The Sangha is big enough. So that's very important. Taking refuge in the Sangha. And taking refuge in the Sangha is very difficult for many of us because we have that sense of individualism, of separate self. We are makers, we are fixers, and we don't allow ourselves to surrender to a Sangha. But a Sangha, living in a Sangha can be very liberating, and I experienced it for myself because I'm someone who wants to help himself, who wants to be independent. And it came somewhere in my adolescence to detach from my parents, from their support, from their, I don't need your money, I don't need your love. Basically, I can live like I'm good enough. And with this energy, you make it somehow, and you believe you are a free individual, a separate self from all others. You may have a career, you can fulfill all your dreams, and you really believe that you have done it until you see how tired you are and how much it wears you out, and that it's not necessary at all. And I brought all this energy into the Sangha and all the responsibility, and I'm not the only one, but all the responsibilities I was entrusted with, I wanted to do like 120%, and I put so much effort in it. And then I was even thinking for others, because I thought, before they do it wrong, or not my way, I better take care of that too. And to be just sure, I'm going to take care of that too, beyond that. And it was just tiring, and you need a few breakdowns, I guess, and a few crises, and a few shining lights, and beginning anews, where you also hear from the Sangha back, that what are you doing to yourself, brother? You know? What are you doing? We are not worried about us. We have the capacity to hold you. But what are you doing to yourself? It's not necessary. And you learn to let go of many things that you feel you need to take care of or to be in control of. And you just let them go, and you see how easy life can be and how easy you can take your responsibility. Just yesterday when we talked about relax all the muscles, you don't need to sit down or to lie down. It's just the same, like if we are able to detect all the things that we think of or deem necessary that are not necessary to remain peaceful, to generate compassion, understanding, and love, and water these seeds within us, like worries, concerns, future thinking, I have to prepare this so I can be happy later. When we see that this is not necessary to build and to be present right now, I can be much more relaxed. Like Brother Jam said, when we walk, relax your shoulders and remind yourself often, because we tense up all the time. And the same is true with our minds. We put so much burden and weight in our thoughts and our worries that we cannot really be present here, and we cannot really take refuge in the Sangha. The Sangha is like a boat, and taking refuge in the Sangha boat doesn't mean that you find a place in the Sangha boat and you hope that everything goes well and we get through storms and we get through shiny weathers and we end up on a beautiful island. But it means to become the boat, to not discriminate between me and you sitting next to me in the same boat. We are not in the same boat, we are the boat. Or our practice can make us the boat, as we said, like body and mind can unite. And the breath is the vehicle that unites body and mind. So the breath also unites my separate self and the Sangha, and we become one. And I can let go of the burdens of my separate self, of my ego, of my pride. And it's so liberating, and it is so releasing, and it feels so... And why didn't I do it earlier already? So when we choose a Sangha, a teacher, a tradition, I remember when I came into age looking seriously for a partner, not like seriously. Like I came to an age where I said, okay, I had a few relationships, now it's time to settle down. And then my mom told me, she said, if you want to marry, before you marry, open both eyes and see who you're getting into. And that means you're interested in another person, in a teacher, in a tradition, in a Sangha. You have to check what are the values of this person, of this teacher. Is that what I want on a long run? Can I live with that? And not only that, but also, You know, often we know what we want. I want a spiritual teacher. But I think and believe the more interesting question is, what am I willing to let go and sacrifice in order to get that? You know, it's easy to want. I want to be a rock and roll star. And I see myself on a stage and thousands of people are celebrating me. But what I am not able to or willing to sacrifice is that I know to get there, I have to have 1,000 little gigs where I carry my own amplifiers and guitar and get not paid. I don't want that. But if I'm willing to do that, to get there, then I know this is the right path for me, and I will, because I know I have to suffer, and I know what I'm suffering for. I know the reason why I'm suffering, for something noble, for to be at peace, to be in a harmonious Sangha, to be a part of something very powerful, very loving, an ideal, a value I hold very dear to me. So she said, before you marry, open both eyes, you know, and know what you're getting into. And then when you marry, close one eye. You know? And all those of you who are married, you know that. If you keep both eyes open, you won't last. So you have to close one eye and let 5 be an even number, as my dad puts it, and not see and hear and smell and everything your partner does. That's a good recipe for a happy life, a happy relationship. And the same is true with the Sangha. Tai often speaks, the Sangha is like a big tree with many leaves. And from a distance, many people who read Thai's books, they say the Sangha is so beautiful. Look at this majestic tree offering shade and oxygen, and it is so just green and lush. But when you come close to that tree and you look at single leaves, you see that some of them rotten, some of them are eaten by bugs, and the tree doesn't become so beautiful anymore. And the same is true with our relationships, our relationship with the teacher, with a Sangha, with a tradition we choose. So as soon as we get married, as soon as we take refuge and become that relationship, not only a part of it, but become that relationship, that boat, we gotta, for our own sake and peace, we gotta close one eye. So I hope, to conclude, I hope that I could inspire our lay sanghas to include some of Thai's practices that he held and deemed very important and crucial to maintain the Sangha's harmony, which is the most important thing, and to take refuge in the Sangha wholeheartedly and show vulnerability, which is also very beautiful. And for those of you who haven't found yet a Sangha, to go and open both eyes and find a Sangha and go there and close one eye. And that will make our Fourfold Sangha bloom the force of our Fourfold Sangha. So, I wish you a fruitful harvest, fruit and joyful harvest of our practice. May the Sangha force be with you.